Boundaries, who needs them, what are they for, and why are they useful in street photography? Welcome back guys, Ace here. It is so lovely to have you back again. So as you know, I've been getting into street photography. In fact, I really love it. I've really been just enjoying getting into it. There's some things that I've been thinking about quite a lot with street photography, with gatekeepers, with rules and things like that. And I really want to have a chat about that. So there's not going to be any photos this particular video. I haven't been on a photo walk. Nothing really exciting to tell you, but I really want to have a chat to you about my ethos at the moment, where I'm coming from in terms of what's important to me photographically with street photography and how I approach that. This isn't about gear. This isn't about the best gear to use. There's heaps of amazing stuff or channels that will talk about that. This is not about gear, but let's have a chat about street photography. And I really want to have a chat about my 3 rules or 3 things that I do to guide me with street photography. So first of all, why? Why would I have rules? Why are these important to me? And that's a really important question because street photography can be anything. It can be getting your iPhone or your mobile phone and taking a photo of a stop sign. Or it can be having a Leica M6 in New York taking photos of people. It's such a broad church. There's no right or wrong way with street photography or even street portraits. So what does that mean? And I think for me to keep on going to the next level or the next step in my street photography journey, I really want to be able to have some clear parameters. These are parameters. They're not dogmatic rules that I want to follow. They're just ideas or guiding principles that I've got Now, I'm certainly not saying if you don't follow these rules, you're not a good photographer or you're not a valid street photographer. That's not what I'm saying, although I will give some comment about why these rules are important to me and where they come from. But I really just want to talk about that. And I want you, if you do follow my channel and you are following my journey, that you probably measure my success, if I can use that, according to my own internal principles. So let's get into it. My first rule, and it's kind of a technical thing, but kind of not. And that's shooting wide open, or rather not shooting wide open, unless the situation warrants it in terms of light. So with modern lenses, even vintage lenses on mirrorless cameras, or even if you're shooting film, bokeh is a big deal because you can get some beautiful bokeh certainly in broad daylight now with modern lenses and high-speed shutters. You know, put a lens on f2 and shoot at 4000 or whatever the case is. You can get in broad daylight results that you could never really achieve with film, or not easily at least, not with normal point and shoot cameras or fairly basic cameras that I've used. The reason why I'm not shooting wide open is important to me is I want to be able to see where the subject is. If I'm in Brisbane, where I live, or down on the Gold Coast, or if I'm traveling and I'm shooting a photo of something or someone, I want to be able to put that person in the context of where they are. And if the photo is wide open, if the aperture is wide open and all I can see is a person and a super creamy background, listen, it may be a fantastic photo. I'm not saying the photo isn't great, but in terms of street photography and where I am in time and place, it's hard to tell what city you're in or what town you're in or even country you're in. When I scroll through Instagram and I see photos, portraits, and it's a really close close-up, really strong close-up. Again, it's probably a great photo. In fact, they are great photos and great portraits. But in the context of a street photographer or a street story, I can't tell. I can't tell if this Indian guy is in New Delhi or if he's in Nashville. I just can't tell. So that's a really important thing, not to shoot wide open, because it separates the subject from the scene. And a big part of street photography for me is the story of, and now whether that story is true or a lie, that's kind of inconsequential. The photo should tell some kind of a story for the audience to infer, rightly or wrongly for me to make that photograph or take that photograph. Shooting wide open doesn't serve that. So for me, the widest I would shoot is about f4. Anything apart from that, just hard to tell. So that's my first rule. My second rule, and this may be controversial, I'm not having a go at anyone directly, it's just an observation, and this is my personal rule. With street photography and certainly street portraits, I want to see expression and I want to see the person telling a story. So again, whether that story is true or false or whatever the case is, for me, a story can't be told from the back of someone's head. There are exceptions to that rule, or people's legs or feet. It's just people's legs or feet, and that kind of goes back to the first rule, that if I can't tell where this person is, if it's feet on a footpath or a sidewalk, it could be anywhere. It could be in a country town, could be in a metropolis, could be anywhere. It just doesn't tell a story. And again, it might be a good photo, it might be compositionally nice. It doesn't tell a story. So for me, when I'm doing street photos now more than ever, and hopefully moving on into the future, I want the photos, whether it be candid or whether it be posed, to tell a story. And it's very difficult for me, maybe you find it different or have a different situation, to tell a story without showing expression. Now, whether that's facial expression or body expression, body language captured in a photo, it doesn't have to be faces, but that's primarily as humans how we read a person's non-verbals, through their face and then through their body. We generally don't do it through the back of their head or their legs or their feet or their shoes. It's where I'm at the moment with street photography. I'm not saying there are exceptions to that rule, there are. When I see street photographers that's all they shoot is from behind, I find it hard to respect them. Just going to throw it out there. Street photography is hard, I'm finding, and this is coming from an absolute novice. I am an absolute novice at this game, so I know there's probably more experienced street photographers. In fact, I know there are for a fact, that are probably having kittens right now because the self-imposed rules I've got are absolute dross, and call me out on those. I'm not going to be precious about that. I just find it hard to see a story with the back of someone's head. It's where I'm at. And especially if there's no progression. We all start off doing that. I certainly started off doing, you find someone that looked interesting on a park bench and you take the photo from behind, or they're in an interesting scene. That's kind of a normal starting point. But when that's consistent, that's not it. And I suppose that's with photography in general. If you see that the person taking the same type of photos, unless it's maybe a professional photographer, that's a different kettle of fish altogether. That's their professional style. But with creativity, I kind of want to see progression, even if I don't like it. If you can see someone's pushing themselves, growing and developing, that's awesome. That's fantastic. So that's the second rule. My third rule, and again, in no particular order, and I'll put some caveats on this, is not exploiting the subject. So there are photographers, especially in conflict zones or war zones and things like that, where they're going to have to take a photo that challenges the human psyche, that challenges our sensibility. Whether it's someone that's been, if you think of any number of the global hotspots at the moment, a photographer's job in those situations is to tell a story that doesn't necessarily want to be told, that would rather be covered up by the powers that be, which warrants taking photos of people in vulnerable situations. That's not what I want to do. I don't really want to be taking photos of people in vulnerable situations that can't either consent to taking a photo, or if I take a photo of them, something negative might be inferred from that person, whether it be mental illness or some kind of addiction. Again, that's still an important part of photography, and there are documentary photographers and photojournalists and people like that do that in an edifying way. I'm just not there. That's not the style that I'm looking for or wanting to do. I'd rather be able to take a photo that edifies someone, that edifies a situation, rather than tell a story of either dysfunction or be perceived as me exploiting this person in a dark time in their life, whether it be homelessness, like I was saying, or in the midst of addiction, or violence or things like that. So that's my own personal ethics. That's where I'm at with that. You might be different. You might be able to do that in an edifying way. I don't know, and I'm very, very happy to hear if that's your situation and that's your story. So they're my 3 rules. They're my 3 guiding principles for street photography. If you are an experienced street photographer, I really would like to know. I'd like to know if you have guiding principles, what they are and how you arrived at that. What was your thought process for you to think either deliberately or subconsciously, this is what I do with street photography. This is how I constrain myself, because otherwise you can take a photo of anything and call it street photography. It's kind of a lazy thing in my view to do that. And if you're a novice like me and you want to rap about those, let me know in the comments. I'm keen to hear about it. I'm keen to know and hear about your experience on if you think this might be helpful for you, and if so, what those personal constraints or personal gatekeeping or parameters might be. I'm finding this to be a really enjoyable journey. I'm loving it. I'm loving experiencing, I'm loving pushing myself, I'm loving getting to know new people and having fantastic 30-second friendships, and enjoying and pushing myself and doing this as I get older and explore that further. Let me know your comments. I always appreciate it. I always really enjoy your engagement. If you like what I'm producing, you know what to do with the subscribe button. Tickle that like, you know what to do. Leave some comments below, good, bad or ugly. I would love to hear from you. As always, crew, love God, love others, and take time to listen.